Welcome to the On the Edge podcast with your host, Scott Groves. Yo, it's Scott Groves here with two friends. The very first episode we did, I think, was with three people, and now we're on the 100th episode, which is pretty crazy. So we're going to do it with three people. Two of my newest friends here in Vegas, Jordan Worth on the right, the skinnier, maybe more flexible one, but we'll talk about that later, and Patrick Panda, if you look him up on Instagram, Shakut Hoffman. We're going to find out why you have two last names and one of them is Shakut. They're both brown belts at 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu in Henderson. We'll explain what that means. They're both coaches. We'll explain what that means. They both make a living off of teaching Jiu Jitsu, which is like crazy to me that that's really a thing. But we'll get into it. So give me the 60-second Reader's Digest version, Patrick, on where you're born, where you're raised, and how did you make it to Vegas with all the other transplants?
Yeah, so I was born in St. Louis, Missouri, lived there in Ohio for a couple years as a kid, but I grew up in a town right outside of Omaha, Nebraska. So I just say Omaha because that's the only one anybody knows. And then in 2016, I didn't have much going on back in Omaha. I had quit a big corporate job, gone back to school, hated being in school for my master's program. And my sister had a job opportunity out here, and I fucking packed up a truck and moved out to Vegas. So that was back in 2016 and been here pretty much ever since. Moved away for a year and a half to live in Korea and been back now for about just over a year. So
love it, man. I want to get to the Korea thing because that to me is super fascinating. Jordan, you're an oddity, man. You're born, bred, and raised in Vegas. You're not a transplant. You're like one of the three originals.
Yeah, man. I'm born and raised down in Henderson. My part of Henderson, people, the locals refer to it as Hendertucky. It's like a lot of redneck type kids, but they're also intermingling with like the hood gangster type kids. And the hood gangster type kids are also intermingling with like the normal like white trailer trash type kids as well, you know? So like it develops a very intermingled type of culture, and it's like a very interesting place, you know.
So not sending a lot of people to like the Ivy Leagues or anything like that.
There's not a lot of people that make it out of Hendertucky, man.
Oh man, Hendertucky. You know. For context, how old are you?
I am 26.
And how old are you, Patrick?
I just turned 30 a couple months ago.
Just turned 30, man. Everyth's downhill from here, bro.
I know.
I think you hit 40, it gets even worse. Like nothing repairs. Like nothing repairs itself. You actually have to go to the doctor and stuff. So 26, you've been doing jiu-jitsu how long for context?
For a little over 10 years now. I started when I was 15. So like 10 and a half years about.
And can you tell us about that journey? Like, how do you stumble into jiu-jitsu in your teenage years? And then how does that become like a huge part of your life in your 20s?
My dad put me in jiu-jitsu when I was really young, but I had bad ADHD. So I would just run around the mat and I would just terrorize the mat to the instructor. And so when my dad brought me back, I was around like 9 or 10 and he tried to put me in wrestling. And I didn't know what the hell wrestling was. I thought it was jiu-jitsu. My game plan, I remember at the time, my first wrestling match, I was trying to take the kid down, get full mount, and go for an Americana in like a folk-style wrestling tournament. That was my game plan. And I went up against one of the coach's sons, and the kid shucks around to my back, grabs a body lock, and suplexes me straight onto my neck. I'm like 10 years old, bro. And
that explains a lot,
dude. It's like my neck, like I get slammed straight on my neck. My spine just like I hear a ton of pops in my neck. I start crying. I'm like totally broken. And my dad's like, "It's okay, like things happen. Like you're gonna go out there and you'll get better next time." And I'm like, "No, Dad, I want to quit." And he's like, "No, don't quit." And I'm like, "Dad, this is not for me. Like I'm not one of those guys. Like I'm quitting." And so I quit. And then I started training parkour when I turned like 14, 15. I did parkour for a while and then pushed.
Parkour, the only thing I can think of is The Office when they're jumping off the desks and onto the trash cans. They're like, parkour.
And I got bullied really, really bad in like middle school. You know,
shocking that you were doing parkour and getting bullied.
I got bullied so bad in my 6th grade year. I left my 6th grade middle school. It's called Brown Junior High School. There's a lot of brown and black kids there. And so at the time I was like, man, all these brown and black kids are bullying me. I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna go to Burkholder. It's a brand new school and I'm not gonna get bullied there. And then I go to Burkholder for 7th and 8th grade, and all the bros, like the white kids who wear long socks and ride bikes, like the California type kids, but they're in Nevada. Those kids ruined me, bro. Those kids were way more ruthless than the brown black kids, man. And then at that point I realized rule number one my dad taught me when I was like 3. My dad was like, all right, rule number 1, Jordan, everybody's assholes. Everybody's a fucking asshole, Jordan. And I was like, oh, it doesn't matter if you're brown, black, white, everybody's a fucking asshole, I guess.
Equal opportunity assholes.
Oh man, everybody's assholes. Okay. And I guess my dad was right. And then I get to high school, I get bullied even more. And
were you like 90 pounds or something? Because you're pretty
I've been
thin, rail thin guy.
I've been 6 foot, 155 pounds since I was 15 years old, right? Yeah. And so, I don't want to be like, what was me and shit. So anyways, I got bullied. I was like, oh, I'm not afraid to fight. Like, I thought I was afraid to fight, but I'm not afraid to fight. Like, because there was a bunch of times where I would get bullied and I would feel like I should stand up for myself, and I wouldn't stand up for myself. But they wouldn't ever, like, actually hit me in my face. Like, it would never come to that typically. And so when it did with a bunch of people, I wasn't afraid at all. And so I realized, oh, I'm not afraid to fight. Like, there's zero part of my brain that I don't care. I know even if I'm going to lose the fight, I'll still stand there and fight with the guy. Like, I'm not going to run away. No matter who's in front of me, I don't care who's in front of me. I'm not running. And I didn't know that about myself.
I saw you coming out of ADCC, and you don't know this because we didn't really know each other then. I saw you coming out of ADCC, and you got your foot fucked up. And somebody stopped you, and they're like, hey, bro, you okay? He was like, yeah, man, this motherfucker, second time he got me in that fucking footlock, fuck, and you're just...
No. Oh, at the ADCC, so I didn't mean to cut you off, but the only person who's caught me in a footlock twice is Keith Krikorian. Let's get that straight.
All right, well, okay. Somebody caught your foot real bad, and you were so
Yes.
fucking mad because you're like, I had this guy, mental slip, and I could just tell in that moment... Like, your foot was fucked up.
I took too many mushrooms at ADCC.
Yeah, you were kind of limping out of there, and I could see it in your eyes that all you wanted to do was get back on the mat and fight this guy again.
I would have went right away. Yeah.
I know, because you knew that you had made some, like, little mental error, and it cost you the back, and you were so fucking mad. And I was like, dude, this guy is fucking fired up, man. Because all I had seen is you and your tie-dye and, like, the Jardine sponsored weed and stuff. I'm like, oh, I'm sure this guy's really chill. He just, like, rolls and, like, whatever. And then I saw you coming out there, and you were so angry. Like, I was going to say hi, and I'm like, fuck, Gabriel, let's go that fucking way. All right.
I'm an emotional guy for sure.
I can tell. All right. So then you fall in love with jiu-jitsu because you got your ass beat and you're ready to fight.
I got jumped, man, and then I realized that I had a bunch of issues in my life. Okay, I'm getting bullied. I don't know how to talk to girls or attract a girl properly. I don't know how to get a job and pay for my potential family in the future. Because at the end of the day, that's all I ever wanted was to have a family and kids and be able to support them. Yeah. And so I was.
And by the way, spoiler alert: knowing a bunch of the guys in the gym. Jiu-Jitsu does not teach you how to talk to girls because there's a lot of attractive girls. A lot of attractive girls at the gym. They come in on an open mat, and I'm like, not a single guy has any game to tactfully say hi. Yeah, anybody that thinks Jiu-Jitsu is going to solve your problems with girls, you can put that out of your mind. Getting jumped, confidence, focus at school, making money. Those are all probably good life lessons at Jiu-Jitsu. Talking to girls, not one of them.
Yeah, and so that's how I started training Jiu-Jitsu. And like I said, I liked Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva was my favorite fighter. I liked strikers and stuff. And the story's about over. I started training jiu-jitsu, and I started training MMA. I was training everything. And I only was training jiu-jitsu because I knew the importance of jiu-jitsu because I grew up watching MMA. And I grew up in a fighting household, and my dad was a jiu-jitsu blue belt. So I was always preached to the importance of jiu-jitsu and that it beats other martial arts if you don't know jiu-jitsu. So my game plan was to become a really, really good striker, and I just knew I had to learn just enough jiu-jitsu to have anti-jiu-jitsu, essentially, to stop jiu-jitsu because I knew its effectiveness. And then I started sparring with guys that were like amateur fighters that were grown men. I'm 15, 16 at the time. 15, exactly 15. And then I'm sparring with a guy who's 20, 21. He's an amateur fighter. And even if I'm better than him or just as good as him in striking, he would hit me way harder if I started doing anything to him, and he would turn it up, and it would be a different thing. And then in jiu-jitsu, through only a couple weeks of training, I started choking that same guy out, and I was rolling him up in the mats. And I was like, oh my God, this is kind of like a superpower. Like, I didn't know jiu-jitsu was this effective. Like, I didn't know I would gravitate it to like this. Like, I can actually beat somebody who's bigger and stronger than me, even though I'm not as big and strong than them with jiu-jitsu. Like, this is really cool. And then my coach at the time, he was a purple belt. He came from like a Gracie lineage, and he showed the rubber guard at the time. Thank God he did, which I don't understand why he did till this day, because he came from Gracie lineage. He came from Gracie Humaita, like. But he showed the rubber guard, and he showed gogo plata and omoplata, and I learned it as a 15-year-old kid, and I've always been real flexible. And I did it, and I was just a fascination lit within my brain. And I was like, dude, this is the coolest shit I've ever fucking done in my life. Like, I cannot believe this. What is this? Like, and he's like, oh, it's this thing called the rubber guard. This guy, Eddie Bravo, does it. It's 10th Planet. Like you can go home and look it up on YouTube if you want. And I was like, what else can you do in the rubber guard besides gogoplata and omoplata? And he's like, there's not really anything else you can do. It's just gogoplata and omoplata. That's it. And I was like, I don't even train jiu-jitsu, and I think there's more you could do there. Like, I could figure something else besides a gogoplata and omoplata from this position. So I go home and I look it up. I found out about Submissions 101, Eddie Bravo, Joe Rogan. I start listening to them, and Joe Rogan and Eddie Bravo are big cannabis advocates.
So
right?
what year is this? You're like 16 years old?
This is 2012. I'm 15.
15. Got
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So Joe Rogan's like, the podcast has just started. Like, jiu-jitsu's starting to get into the mainstream. There's like,
Yes.
there's like real, you know,
10th
it's
Planet
it's
is
growing
still,
fast.
Eddie versus Hoyler 2 has not happened, right? When I first start training 10th Planet, because there was no 10th Planet Las Vegas at the time. So when I delved deep into 10th Planet and I was learning the rubber guard, the lockdown, the twister, and I was just diving as much as I could into the 10th Planet system, everybody was calling me an idiot. Everybody, all of my training partners, even my coach was like, dude, like, stop spending so much time watching this. You're wasting your time. This shit doesn't really work. Like, look at the highest levels. Look at the ADCC. Look at the UFC. Look at the world champions. There's nobody doing these techniques. This doesn't work, right? These are like unproven techniques. You're wasting your time. You should be learning the other things. But I was gonna get to I listened to Joe Rogan and Eddie Bravo talk about cannabis, right? And I took DARE, and I always thought drugs were drugs and drugs were bad. And so I needed something to help me when I was in high school, but I never thought about ever going to pharmaceutical drugs because I was always so anti-drug, no matter what type of drug, drugs are drugs and drugs are bad. And then I listened to Eddie Bravo and Joe Rogan, and I remember being furious. I was like, they're lying. Why are they lying? These guys are lying to everybody. What's going on? These guys are like influential people, you know, like they're teaching the next generation. Like, why are they telling people to do drugs?
And by the way, just for the juxtaposition, and Patrick, we'll get to you in a second. I knew there was going to be no problem filling a couple hours.
I'm sorry this story took too long. It's literally right. This is the last words I'm saying. I'm going to let Patrick talk.
But the best thing
is
the juxtaposition about what you're saying, for those of you that are listening and not watching on YouTube, Jordan currently has a Jardine marijuana dispensary hat on because he's sponsored by them in his in his jiu-jitsu career. So it's funny that you went from like, dare to keep kids off drugs, all drugs are bad, to 11 years later you're like, I'm sponsored by a dispensary and I really like marijuana.
The High Rollers shirt too.
Oh, and the High Roller BJJ shirt. Yeah.
I was for my 9th and 10th grade year, I was what you call straight edge. Straight edge is like, you don't do drugs, you don't drink, you don't like do bad things essentially.
Yeah.
So I eventually found marijuana. You know, I used to be extremely anti-drug.
I found it on the side of the
And then
street.
I was like, holy shit, there's this thing out there. There's this drug out there that can essentially save me and like help me with all of my issues that I'm dealing with. And till this day, I tell people it was through finding jiu-jitsu, right? I found MMA and then I found jiu-jitsu. And then through jiu-jitsu, I found 10th Planet. Through 10th Planet, I found marijuana. But without finding marijuana, I would not have graduated high school, period. I would not have I would not have had the ability mentally to be able to get through high school. All right. I ended up getting through high school and I got my diploma, and that is the single hardest thing I've ever done as a human being. That was 1,000 times harder than getting my brown belt or like competing at the highest levels. Getting my high school diploma was the hardest thing I've ever done. And so like different people have different paths, man, you know, like,
it's
and
totally true.
For me personally, dude, high school was a living hell, and the diploma, I thought I had to get my diploma in order to be like a sustainable person. And now I worked so hard to get my diploma, and every single job application I've ever applied for, they never ask you for a diploma.
No,
so
they
if
don't
you're
give a
listening to
shit.
this, you don't need your high school diploma. It doesn't matter. It's not real. Okay. It doesn't actually matter. If you're going to college, then they might ask you, but if you're just trying to go to high school and that's all you want, and then if you, I need to get my high school diploma so I can actually no, you don't. All right. Just drop out, get your blue collar job, get a little like,
Probably
jump start
make more
on the
money.
world. You'll make way more money. I didn't know this. Nobody told me this. So like legitimately, if you're listening to this at the time and you're thinking about going blue collar and you're not going to college, like, learn what you need to learn to like be a sustainable person, and then get out and go the path. You know what I mean? Because the only reason why you need a diploma is for college. If you're not going to college, you don't need a diploma. And nobody told me that. I wish they did, because I went through hell to get that diploma and I didn't need it.
So Patrick, I'm going to guess your story is different. And knowing that you grew up in Nebraska, in my mind, you just grew up like being on a path to wrestling because everybody in Nebraska and Iowa and Ohio, they just wrestle because that's what they have to do.
There's nothing else to do.
There's nothing else to do but wrestle like sheep or something. And I went to Fort Riley, Kansas. I was there for 3 years. There's really nothing to do. Like I was probably a functioning alcoholic in the Army because all there is to do is drink. So tell us about your road from Nebraska to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So to your point about wrestling, I grew up, I always liked playing a lot of different sports, like played football. Basketball was actually what I enjoyed doing the most when I was a kid. I am not very good at scoring points, but I am a fucking monster to deal with on defense. Like my last year of playing basketball, I fouled out every single game except for one. And the only one I didn't foul out, we had 6 kids, and one of the kids broke his arm and couldn't finish the game. And they're like, Pat, you can't foul out. And I'm like, we just finished the first half of the game, and I already have 3 fouls. Like, I don't know how to play basketball without, like, going hard in the paint and, like, not allowing buckets. Because they used to send me in and be like, hey, like, he's scoring too much. Like, just make him not want to. And they'd just send me in there, and I'd be like, you want me to play rough basketball, like defensive basketball? That's what I like doing. And it was that year after fouling out every game that my coach pulled me aside, and she actually told me, she was like, Pat, you know, we'd love to have you here and everything. And she's actually a good family friend of ours. Like I grew up with her kids and everything, but she's like, basketball might not be the sport for you. You might want to try wrestling. Like that might just be better for you. And so I was like, Rebecca, you're right. Like, and so the next year I got into wrestling in junior high. And, you know, I was never great at wrestling. It wasn't my main focus. I did it mostly. They're like, oh, this will help with football. Like football is what I like to play. And my parents, especially in high school, had a rule. As long as I was playing sports and involved in another extracurricular activity, so I played the saxophone for like 10 years. As long as I was doing that, I didn't have to get a job. And they would pay for my gas money and everything. So I was like done. Like I'll go to band early in the morning and I'll play every sport so I don't have to get a job. It didn't apply in the summers. Like I had to go work in the summers and everything like that. But so I wrestled in junior high, and then in high school, I wrestled all through high school. And what led me to jiu-jitsu, I had tried out a little bit of jiu-jitsu before my senior wrestling season, like literally a month or two. And then I remember contacting that gym, like, hey, I'm going to do wrestling. Like, can you put my account on hold? I'll come back after wrestling season. And, you know, at that time, I think I maybe literally did 6 classes before wrestling season started. And my senior wrestling season, I was excited because this was finally like a year. Like I felt pretty good about the year. I was doing well and everything. My very first match of the year, which was just like an exhibition match. It wouldn't have even counted towards my record. I tore 2 ligaments in this elbow. Oh. I ended up missing all the way until like the tournament before districts. So in Nebraska, they have districts and then state. I think that's still true. It might be different now. But they had districts and then state. So I came back. I had 1 tournament before districts. I had to move up a weight class because my senior year, I had gone down to like 189, and our 215er had gotten injured. And so when I came back, they're like, you're going to go to 215. And I'm coming off this injury.
So you've always been a pretty big boy.
Oh, yeah.
215 in high school is a big boy.
I was playing defensive and offensive line for football. And so, like, yeah, I remember I left junior high wrestling. I wrestled at 160. And by the time football started for me in high school, I was 210.
Holy shit, dude.
Like, that in that time, I literally all I did was eat. I lifted weights and I practiced football. Like, that was it. And, I mean, my parents can attest to their grocery bill during that time. Like, I was drinking, like, a gallon of milk a day and, like, everything. Because I was, like, I got sent to an all-boys private high school, partially because my parents didn't want me hanging around with my friends from public school. Because
because they were like Jordan.
Well, we used to go, like, fortunately, Nebraska has cornfields, so running from cops is pretty easy. Like, you just go in the cornfields. They don't want to chase you in there, especially if the corn stalks are high and everything. So, yeah, they sent me to this all-boys high school that had a really good football team, and I was like, cool, I'm going to play for this team. That was my focus, so I just got big, whatever, and I just wrestled. Again, I didn't want to go get a job. Like, my older sister was working at a grocery store because in Nebraska, like, you can get signed off to start working at, like, 14.
Yeah, I was like 4 or something,
Yeah.
right? They don't care.
Well,
it's a farm.
Into the coal mines.
Right.
I worked on a farm for a week. I hated it. But, yeah, so I missed, like, my whole senior wrestling season. I missed going to state by a point. I lost to a guy in the weight class up after missing the whole season by a point, and that just pissed me off so much because I was so excited about my senior wrestling season. And I remember my first jiu-jitsu class after wrestling was done. This is what really hooked me. I trained at a school that was a gi school that I started at. Like, they were an MMA school, but back then all jiu-jitsu was in the gi pretty much.
Yeah, big kimono, big robe. For people that are, if anybody's still listening and not interested in jiu-jitsu, God bless you, first of all. Second of all, yes, a gi is like a big kimono, like a thick robe that you throw people around in. Think like a judo or sambo or something like that.
Or feudal Japan, like the
Feudal
pictures
Japan,
you
there you
see of feudal Japan. So I remember going into this class, again, I'm about 210 pounds, getting done with wrestling season. I was in pretty good shape and everything. And we did the technique portion of class, and then it's time for rolling. And the instructor pairs me up with this blue belt girl who had matching blue hair. I can't remember her name, but if I ever saw her face again, I'd know it in an instant. And, like, I never saw her after this day. So it's a weird part. Like, blue belts disappear. But I went with her, and I'm like, oh, this little girl, I'll go light with her. I didn't know what a blue belt meant.
Yeah, you're a 210-pound wrestler, football player. You're like an alpha male, all boys high school. You feel like a badass.
Yeah,
and she fucked you up, didn't she?
She choked me unconscious 3 times in a 5-minute round. Like, that first, I'm going easy, whatever, and then she hits me with a collar choke, and then, like, I'm like, I'm good. I'm out. And then I get back up, and I'm like, this is how we're going to fucking do it. And I, like, go a little bit harder. I'm like, she's still a girl, like, way smaller than me. I'm going a little bit harder. She's got my back. Chokes me out again. I pass out. Like, they're shaking my legs to wake me up.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Oh, you can sit out. And I'm like, no. And I get up, and I'm like, I'm going to fucking kill this bitch. And I just jump. I'm going full bore. And then literally, like, within a minute or so later, she put me to sleep again. And that at that time, the instructor was like, hey, you're done for the day, buddy. Like,
yeah, we're going to give you brain damage on your first session back.
But, you know, after that, I was like, I need to fucking learn how to do this stuff. So I trained at that school for about a year and a half, and I loved it because they were like a full MMA gym. They had a kickboxing program, everything like that. I loved kickboxing, actually, more than jiu-jitsu at first.
Me too.
And so I was there for a while, and then I hurt my knee pretty bad. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I was also in college at the time, and I ended up taking 2.5 years basically off. Like, it's kind to myself to say that I trained once a month,
right,
during that time, but I basically took 2.5 years off. And I ended up canceling my membership at the gym. I'm like, I'm not going enough. But one of my buddies that I worked with at the time was like, hey man, like, I know you used to do jiu-jitsu. Like, I'm going to check out this place called 10th Planet. And I didn't even know what 10th Planet was at the time, but I was kind of like, yeah, you know, I feel good. I'll get back into jiu-jitsu. And, I went with him, and this was 10th Planet Omaha. And although it says 10th Planet Omaha, they're located in Bellevue, Nebraska, not Omaha. But anyway, so he convinced me to go with him, and then ever since then, I got hooked again immediately. When they were like, it's no gi, I'm like, fuck yeah, I don't have to wear that thing anymore.
Explain to people that don't do jiu-jitsu or that maybe do gi and they're like, okay, no gi, a little bit more like wrestling. You just wear some shorts and a rash guard. Can you explain to them like the addiction part? Because I've heard that like I really enjoy it, and I'm gonna go 4 or 5 times a week, and I've taken some private lessons from both of you, and like I really enjoy it. And I think maybe I found the right instructors in my 20s, I would have been addicted. But I've heard the word addicted multiple times from people where they're like, dude, this is now my life, and I'm going to try to work out 2 or 3 times a day, and I have this goal, and maybe I want to fight, and maybe I want to compete. Can you explain the allure?
Yeah, like in my mind, people need struggle in their life. Like overall life is fairly easy. Like if we think of us as humans, like in the past, like life was fucking difficult, especially if we're even talking like 200-300 years ago. Like just getting by was fucking hard. And like, yeah, life sucks sometimes nowadays, but comparatively, man, like it's fucking easy. So
yeah.
Like people need struggle. Like it's been a part of our evolution forever. And that physical struggle you get, the camaraderie of everybody, like we're all working towards a common goal. Like, yes, we fucking strangle each other and try and break each other's arms, but ultimately everyone's in the room because like we want to help each other get better. Like I only get better if you get better. So like if everyone else in the room gets better, like this is part of my gripe with what used to be like the secretiveness of jiu-jitsu, like don't train with other people. It's like, why the fuck not? I want everybody to know everything, because then we all have to get better.
Right.
And then it's just like the solving the puzzle. Like it's a fascinating puzzle to constantly be solving, and you got to solve it quickly, like under stress, and the physicality of it. Like, so I think all those factors really weigh in to what makes it so addictive. Because yeah, especially like you take people that work, you know, behind a desk or whatever, they don't have a lot of that physical activity in their life. Maybe they fucking hate the people that they work with. Like, I know when I worked some desk jobs, I fucking hated everybody I worked with. But I go to jiu-jitsu and, like, see this wide range of people, like, from all different walks of life. And we just have a common goal, and we're just, like, we're here to get better. We're hanging out, like, and that's just, you know, the sense of community and everybody trying to get better, I think, is a huge part of it. And then the physical struggle, I think, is part of it, because something about our fucking monkey brain wants that.
Yeah. Say some more, Jordan, because I know you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's a little bit, everything Pat said is I completely agree with, and is for sure a big part of it as well. But I think, honestly, what a big part of why people train jiu-jitsu, especially initially, and I also think it's also a major reason why the blue belt blues is such a contributing factor in jiu-jitsu and such a real thing in jiu-jitsu. If you don't know what the blue belt blues is, the blue belt blues, blue belt is the first belt you get in jiu-jitsu, and the dropout rate after blue belt is like above 80%. It's staggering.
So it goes white, you're a beginner, you like just
Yes.
get your ass kicked nonstop for a year. Then you're like, cool, you know some moves, so you're a blue belt.
Yes.
Like basically, I'm a blue belt based on the previous gym I was at. I can like get my ass kicked safely. That's kind of what a blue belt is. It's like, hey, I can get my ass kicked without injuring myself.
And if you were to go against somebody who does not know jiu-jitsu, you're going to smoke them almost every single time, unless they're just they have major advantages on you. Like they're a lot younger and faster than you, and they're pretty good already. Like they grew up fighting a little bit.
Even
they're
then,
way bigger and stronger
you're
than
gonna
you.
be safe.
Even then, you're probably going to beat them, right? Even then,
it's like
do you hear yourself,
there's
right?
some weird shit. You're like, oh, if I just keep my elbow close to my knee, he's not going to hurt me.
Exactly. So what does this mean? The majority of the reason why people train jiu-jitsu is because people want to feel safe. People want to feel confident. People want to feel like they can handle themselves and they can protect themselves, because you're always, as soon as you enter the world, everybody around you is a potential threat. If they decide to attack you and they're bigger and stronger than you, or they know how to fight better than you, then you're going to lose. And that's a scary reality. That is the reality of the world. And tapping people out and strangling people against their will and building yourself up while single-handedly showing people their other place in the food chain becomes very addictive.
Yeah.
That's the addictive part.
I totally get that. Patrick, are you a little bit more zen than this? Or do you even have like the guy in the gym or the guy in your psyche who you're like, dude, I just got to get good enough to like either beat this guy or manipulate this guy, or like, I just got to dominate this guy?
I don't know. For me, it's just an endless puzzle. I don't really give a fuck about tapping anybody. Like competing was the reason I got into jiu-jitsu, but competition, like personally for me, doesn't interest me anymore. Like I get more excited watching the people that train with me compete than like when I go compete myself. When I go compete myself, I win. If I lose, Like I don't really give a fuck, but I get super excited if I see like one of the people that trains with me win, or if they lose, I'm like, oh, this is what we can work on next. So like,
dude, that's like the hallmark of like a great coach or a great mentor. You should have kids immediately.
I want to have like 12, like.
Better get your girlfriend working on it, bro.
I know. Like we've discussed
12.
this.
Oh my
Better
God.
put a ring on it.
What you
Already
just
did,
say?
actually.
Oh, you're
on our
engaged?
trip, yeah.
Hey,
On our
congratulations,
trip.
man.
Thank
I didn't know that.
Thank you.
Man, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's super cool.
But
What's that? There's some movie where the guy's like, one vagina for the rest of your life. Way to think it through, bro.
I know I've seen that clip before, but I mean, everyone gets confused. They're like, "Wait, I thought you were already married." I've said wife for a long time because we've been together for quite a while, and then I was like, "Yeah, I just made it official now." Like,
Yeah, that's awesome.
I gave her the ring and everything.
So I want to ask, like, for you guys, what it means to be a brown belt. Brown's kind of weird to me because I'm like, well, what does that mean in the like pecking order, skill level? What does a brown belt mean to both of you? Which is one of the reasons I want to interview you guys, because like, what did it take to get there, and then like, what does it mean? So maybe we'll start with you, Jordan.
So blue belt typically is a hard out. Like you can roll with a blue belt and you're a hard round, you're hard to submit, and you know the basics of jiu-jitsu, right? You know the basic fundamentals, like the basic grand scheme of what jiu-jitsu is.
Yeah, I almost got you off my body the other day. I was so proud, and then you fucking just fell back on my chest, and I was like deflated. Anyway, I digress.
Purple belt, you should be able to lay traps and be able to fuck the majority of people up, right? Especially
So when you
like,
say lay traps, like anticipate what the guy's going to do before he does it, or
so
trick him into a move.
Exactly what you just said. Anticipate what he's going to do before he does it, and you're there. You're already to the finish before he's going into your trap, essentially. You're open up, you're placing a bunch of traps everywhere, and you're making guys run into your traps, and you're using the rules of jiu-jitsu to your advantage to start doing all sorts of wizardry and sorts of cool submissions and all sorts of cool things like that. Like you're starting to paint your own picture is really what it is at purple belt. So at blue belt, you're just learning how to paint, right? You're learning because martial arts is an art, right?
Yeah.
As a white belt, you don't know how to paint any pictures, right? As a blue belt, you learn how
Like
the
paint by
techniques-
number.
You learn the techniques behind painting, and you can paint basic pictures, right? And now at purple belt, you're going to start painting in-depth pictures and start connecting the dots and start developing your own pathways and start being able to trick people into traps and stuff like that. That's what a good purple belt. That's what a purple belt should be. And now, but you are not able to necessarily convey what you are doing to everybody else, right? You're in the developmental stage of your martial arts career where you are trying to figure out what picture you're going to paint, how you're going to paint it, and what it looks like, and you're going to start painting it, right? And then as a brown belt, you can teach other people how to paint, right? You've learned how to paint. You're a painter now. You've painted some cool masterpieces. You've done some really cool shit. Now you can teach other people how to paint, right? And then black belt is really subjective, really. Black belt, as they always say, like everything's kind of all politics, right? Everything's kind of just everything, no matter what it is in life. It's kind of just like depending on where you're at in life, depending on what's going on with you and your instructor, depending on what you've done with your accolades, depending on a lot of different things. But a lot of the time, your black belt depends on one thing. It's when your instructor decides to give you the black belt.
Right.
And for every instructor, kind of, especially being in the game this long, I've seen a bunch of different reasons for people getting their black belt. I've seen this guy recently, I'm not going to say his name, and I even believe that he deserves his black belt, kind of, a little bit. But this guy's been training for like 15 years, right? He's been like 15, 16 years, but for the last 4 or 5 years, he has only really been focused on his job because he has a wife and kids, and he's only been doing his day job for the last 4 or 5 years, maybe training once or twice a week.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
just to keep his skills
just to
relevant.
keep his skills, just training when he can, when he has the time for it. But his majority of his obligations and his responsibility are to his family and to his job.
Right.
He's not doing jiu-jitsu like that anymore, but he never stopped doing jiu-jitsu. He never
Right.
stopped, you know? And so recently this guy just got his black belt, and I went up to him and I was like, yo, dude, like, you still train?
Awkward.
Yeah, and he kind of laughed and he was like, dude, I don't deserve this. Like, I don't know what they're doing right now. This is kind of like a ceremonial thing because this is like a big seminar type thing. Like, I honestly don't even really want this. I don't know what's going on. I didn't expect this. Like, but they're, you know, what am I going to do? Say no? And I was like, oh no, dude, no, you deserve it, bro. Like, you definitely deserve it. But I was
you put in the time.
I was just curious. Like, I wasn't, you know, where do you train at? And he's like, oh, dude, like, I don't really train anymore, bro. Like, that's why I don't really want this. Like,
Right.
I haven't trained. I haven't taken a jiu-jitsu class in over 2 months. And I was like, that guy got his black belt.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So, like, what the hell is a black belt? A black belt is all when the stars have aligned, essentially.
Yeah.
Right?
I've heard two
You never
things.
quit. You never quit jiu-jitsu.
I was just
You
going to say.
just didn't quit, bro. You just didn't quit, and then one day your instructor felt good. And he was like, oh, here you go.
I've heard two things about being a black belt. One, I got this plaque made for the gym I used to work out with. We work out at Dream MMA in Valencia. Really good guy named Jeff Martin. He's under the Machado lineage. Like, really, really good guy. MMA fighter, has like 30 fights, and like now that he's older, almost 40, he's like focusing mostly on jiu-jitsu. Got his black belt. I got him a placard that said, "A black belt is just a white belt that never quit." Like,
Exactly.
if you just don't quit and you keep showing up, you'll get there eventually. So that's one thing I've heard about a black belt. And then I've also heard there's some schools where it's like, hey man, if you don't have the ability to articulate, or you don't have the depth of knowledge to teach other people how to at least get to a blue or purple belt, you'll never be a black belt. Because like you have to have like such a conceptual knowledge that you can pass that knowledge on to the next generation. Because you can be the baddest ass brown belt in the history of the world, but maybe, I don't know if this is true or not, but maybe the idea of the black belt is not only that you're like a great student, but now you can become the teacher, right? Like you move from being Luke Skywalker to Obi-Wan Kenobi.
In theory how it's supposed to be, but there's also people that just like, if you're only pure focus is world domination, right? I'm Khamzat Chimaev. I kill everybody. That's you. That's what consumes you. That's all that floods your mind.
That guy doesn't want to teach anyone.
You think you give a fuck about showing your knowledge? You don't care. You're not trying. It's not your path, bro.
Yeah.
But you've also managed to destroy every single person in front of you. The other people's path, that was their path. Oh, they're doing well in competition and they're doing well constructing people. Well, this guy just smashed him, made him look like he's a white belt. You're going to tell that guy he's not a black belt?
But I'm sure
you
that
know what I mean.
I'm sure
like,
that was
in theory,
also
you're supposed to be able to. Like, if
Right.
like I said, a brown belt even is supposed to be able to be a good instructor.
Right.
But I've met black belts that are world champions that are god awful instructors.
Right.
And I've met purple belts that are excellent instructors, but they don't roll very well. You know what I mean? So it's two separate things: competing and instructing. And in theory, right, and like you are, right, on paper supposed to be good at instructing and good at competing as a black belt, but you could just be a good instructor and get your black belt. You could be just a good competitor and get your black belt. You could not be a good instructor and not a good competitor and still get your black belt as long as you trained 15 years and developed a good relationship with the coach.
So I'm
what I mean?
going to put
Like,
you on the spot. What do you think you need to improve on personally in your life, on the mat, your own skills, your teaching ability? What do you think you need to improve on? Or maybe it's just like, hey, I need 2 more years time and grade at a brown belt, and I'll kind of expect the fact that I'm at a black belt level. What do you think you need personally to get to a black belt level?
Me personally, I think one of the major ones is responsibility and maturity, which I've been trying to work on a lot lately. Trying to make sure that I'm reliable, I'm responsible, I'm mature, I'm presentable. That's why I cut my hair. That's why I've been trying to be more well-spoken and just more responsible in general, you know what I mean? I'm trying to be on time everywhere I get to, which is a really, really, really difficult thing of mine, getting to places on time. But I'm trying. That's the other thing. Acknowledging your holes and trying to patch your holes. So I'm trying to identify my holes. You know, Sometimes I'm a little lazy when it comes to like leaving my house, and so I end up being late to certain places. Sometimes I'm bad at scheduling things out and like remembering what my schedule looks like. And so I've been trying to really focus on fixing those things and just be more responsible and mature the last couple months. And also technical aspect wise, which I think is one of the smaller things. I could ask Coach Casey and he might say differently, but I think technically wise, I need to get better at my wrestling and my takedowns and my guard passing and my top pressure, which I've gotten a lot better at my guard passing and my top pressure. One of my last competitions, I got on top of the guy and I just rape choked him past his guard, just smashed him, and I felt him instantly break. Like it was strange. I just felt his energy leave his body. He didn't want to fight no more. And so I've been trying to work on my wrestling a lot, my guard passing, and my pressure. Because Casey, Casey's
big on pressure. Get on top, pressure. Smash him.
Get on top. If you're on your back, you're losing.
Yeah.
Even though we train at 10th Planet and the entire system is built off of your back and the guard, but if you're on your guard, you're losing. But it's true. It is true.
Because in a real fight, if somebody's in their guard, they're just drilling you in the face.
That's the other thing, dude. Everything Casey says, man, is true. Every single word that comes out of that man's mouth is true. Everything that he says is unarguable and true. But also, on the flip side, everything in life is yin and yang. Within the black, there is that little circle of white. And within the white, there is that little circle of black. You know what I mean? And so I've just been trying to come to a compromise with him, and he's also been kind of coming to a compromise with me. He's been really embracing my leg locks and my guard and like a lot of the things that he hasn't really embraced as much as he could have in the past. He has been lately, so he's been really awesome lately. We've been working together, and I think he's noticed me making an attempt to do the things that I have not been doing in the past.
Patrick, same question for you, man. Like, where are you at in your evolution? And like, what do you feel like you need to move from a brown to black level? Because I will say for both of you, I've taken both of your classes several times. And one of the things I really enjoy is that both of you are really articulate instructors in very different ways. Jordan has like this skill of being able to relate jiu-jitsu to like fighting and history and like theory of where you want to be in body position. And then I really appreciate Patrick because he's like, dude, I want to do minimum effort for maximum reward. This is exactly where you place your body and your limbs to make sure like you're doing the right thing with minimum effort, maximum reward. But you guys are both really articulate, which I appreciate. So what do you think you need to do, Patrick, to like get to that black belt level?
Just to address that, I call it a lot lazy jiu-jitsu when I'm joking around.
I say the same thing, bro. No way.
It's really efficiency jiu-jitsu, and then like the underlying principle for me is relative work rate. Like no matter who you are, I'm just trying to make you work harder than I am.
Yeah,
like,
and you're really good at it. It's really frustrating when I think I'm in and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing yet, but when I think I'm in an advantageous position, and then you literally just shift like 8 inches, I'm like, fuck, I'm starting all over again with this 230-pound panda on top of me. This blows. Yeah. So, yes, you absolutely make people exert maximum effort for minimum movement on your part.
I tell everybody that I love, I'm taking away from Pat real quick, but I tell everybody that I'm super lazy, right? I'm a stoner and I'm lazy. That's why I like jiu-jitsu, is because it allows me to be lazy and tie people up.
Right,
Go on,
right.
Pat.
So like self-reflecting things I think I need to work on. This is something that's come up with me. I had a conversation with a couple people about this. We spoke earlier about how competition is...
Whoa, shit. There's some massive fucking bugs flying through our place right now.
It was on my shoulder. Holy fuck. He hit me in the neck and landed right on my shoulder. I got punched, bro.
Is that the one we knocked off the green screen?
Yeah. Jordan will fight any human being, but a large locust just scared the shit out of him.
I don't like flying bugs, bro.
All right. Being self-reflective, Patrick.
I think one thing that I need to get back to is that competitive drive and the want to compete again. Not even want to compete. I don't have to want to do it, but I should go do it to, again, like I said, it makes me happy to see the people that train with me go out, compete and win, or if they lose, I'm just proud of them for going out there. Like I tell I got a couple people, and they're like, "Oh, I'm so nervous about competing." And a really good friend of mine told me this a while back, and it stuck with me. And he said, "The people that love you before you go out and compete are gonna love you afterwards, no matter what. Like, none of this shit fucking matters. Like,
Right.
the people that love you are gonna love you the same, and people that are only with you if you win, fuck them. Like, they don't actually love you." So that stuck with me a lot, and I tell that a lot to some of the students that train with me and are nervous about competing. I'm like, look, I'm gonna love you and I'm gonna be proud of you no matter what. So I think getting back to competition is something for me. Like, fortunately, since I moved back from Korea, I've had a lot of injuries due to a couple things. I think I could focus better on my habits outside of jiu-jitsu. Like Scott mentioned, I am a large fellow. Here's the thing. Both of my parents are were professional chefs. I learned how to cook when I was super young. I fucking cook really well. And I also grew up in a brewing company. So I like to cook, I like to eat, and I like to drink beer. And I like to do jiu-jitsu. Like, those are my things. So just being better about that and setting a better example for my students and everything. Because, like, again, you know, it's good to be an example for people. I've focused a lot on my teaching ability. I think that's important, but I think something I work on is being a better example for everybody out there. Like, you know, it's cool that I fucking I look the way I do. If you've never seen me, I drink beer. Like,
I mean, he looks like a panda. He looks like a panda. He's got a panda belly, but then when he like inverts and rolls around like he's, I don't know, a flexible 100-pound 13-year-old, it's really frustrating because I'm like, somebody your size shouldn't move like that.
Yeah, I've gotten that for years because actually I tore my groin when I was in high school as well. Before I tore my groin, I could do a full splits and I never trained flexibility. Like, I was just always naturally flexible. I was also hit by a car. And so my right hip's been fucked up since then. But yeah, I would think that's a big thing. The two biggest things for me is kind of going back to my roots of jiu-jitsu with the competition focus. And then again, just setting a better example for everyone that trains with me as far as everything I do outside of jiu-jitsu. You know, I focus a lot on teaching. I am in love with teaching jiu-jitsu. Anyone that trains with me, if they want to stay after and like talk to me about jiu-jitsu, like, I'll fucking hang out for hours and like I won't even notice the time go by. Like, I just love to talk about it, you know, and I love when people ask questions. Like, you've heard this, if I ever teach class, I'm like, please ask me questions. Like,
right.
One, if you ask me the question, someone else probably has a question and they're too afraid to ask it. And two, I'm really hoping for questions I don't have a good answer to, because that excites me, because then I have to go learn more. And again, we talked about this being a big puzzle, and like, that's what jiu-jitsu is to me. Like, I just want to learn more. Like, I want to get deeper in this, and like, it's exciting to me, just the pursuit of that. And so again, I want the questions I can't answer well, because then I have to go learn more. And again, I want everybody to be fucking dope at jiu-jitsu. Like, yeah. I want everybody to be good at jiu-jitsu. I don't believe in having like hidden techniques or things you don't show people unless they train with you or pay you or whatever.
Yeah, this isn't Scientology, bro. I don't need to ascend to another level to get the next secret.
Exactly. Like, we're not Tom Cruise fucking shelling out however millions he has for Scientology. Like, I'll fucking teach. If you ask the question or you want to know, I'll talk about it. Like, I will tell anybody how to beat me, whatever you want, because then I just have to get better, and that excites me.
That's amazing, man. You know, we've hinted around it, and you've obviously got the Jardine hat on there. You know, Casey couldn't really articulate this because Casey jokes around. He's like, I think I'm the only person in the 10th Planet Network who has never been high on a jiu-jitsu mat. So he didn't really know how to articulate it. But why is...
Shout out Hardin, by the way, my sponsor.
Oh, I keep saying Jardine. Hardin. Sorry,
Hardin.
like a garden. Hardin.
Yes.
Hardin. I should get my wife in here. She's Hispanic. Hardin. The garden. Oh, that makes sense now. Now I'm remembering 7th grade Spanish. Hardin, the garden, because they're a garden of weed. I get it. Damn. That's so cool. You have a sponsor. I want to, Chris. We got to get a sponsor for the podcast. Like somebody has to be willing to give us $1 for the like 100 views we get an episode. Then we can officially say we're sponsored. So somebody explain to me, please, why the weed culture is so intertwined with the with jiu-jitsu. Because I've told this story once before. Is that the gym is really respectful. The kids and the families park in the front, and the adults park in the back. And even when there's a switch over from the kids class to the adult class, if somebody's getting high, they do it in the back parking lot. But my son was with me one time at open mat, and he knows I smoke a lot of cigars. And a bunch of dudes, probably Jordan, was walking in from the back door for open mat. He's like, Dad, man, their cigars smell way different than your cigars. Why could they go smoke cigar in 5 minutes and your cigars take like a whole movie? And I'm like, well, buddy, it's a different kind of cigar that you're smelling. So why is the weed culture so intertwined with the jiu-jitsu culture?
2 words. Eddie Bravo.
Yeah, no, I get that he's a stoner, but like, I get it. I get the influential power of Eddie Bravo, but like, people aren't getting stoned the 5th, 6th, 500th time doing jiu-jitsu because they look up to Eddie Bravo. There has to be some... There's got to be some benefit, though, right? Like,
for sure, there's a shit ton of benefits, bro. He opens up your eyes to all the benefits. But Eddie is the reason that because before, it's not just because of Eddie. Even before Eddie was doing jiu-jitsu, like even before I did jiu-jitsu, jiu-jitsu and cannabis has always been intertwined. Same thing, how like jiu-jitsu, cannabis and surfing are intertwined. Cannabis and skateboarding are intertwined. Cannabis and counterculture are intertwined. And cannabis and athletics are intertwined. Yeah. You look at all these NBA players, all these football players. Look at Michael Phelps. Yeah. Look at any athlete. So for one, cannabis and counterculture is intertwined, and cannabis within athletics is already intertwined.
Right.
And so it just took an influential person like Eddie Bravo to be outspoken and let everybody know, and also not only outspoken but do something legendary like beating Royler Gracie in Brazil. So that's the reason what really blew up marijuana and made it acceptable and open, because it's not like it wasn't there. It was always there. It's always there. It was always there. But the Brazilians were smoking weed, and like they weren't telling anybody that they were smoking weed. Right. You know what I mean?
And it was probably bad weed because it's Brazil.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the Brazilians. I'm talking about the Brazilians in California.
Yeah, that was better weed.
You know what I mean? Like the American Brazilians, like the Brazilians that were doing jiu-jitsu in America, and like a lot of jiu-jitsu students. Like you were smoking weed, but you didn't want to tell your professor because your professor would get mad at you. You know what I mean? And people were smoking weed, but you just didn't come onto the mats smelling like weed a lot of the time, or else your professor would get mad. But then Eddie made it acceptable. Eddie made it open. And then not only Eddie, Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan had the podcast, right? The Joe Rogan Experience. And even back in the day. I don't even listen to the Joe Rogan Experience anymore because it's so overrated. I can't even bring myself to watch it because everybody else does it. Anything that's extremely popular that everybody else does, I hate. I can't stand it. Anything that's like real popular, like I like things before they're popular, and once it becomes popular, I can't like it anymore.
You know, it's like a horseshoe, though, right? It's like I remember somebody describing
you're a scene kid,
total scene kid. I remember somebody describing this to me as cool, like the spectrum of cool. I think I actually read this in Rolling Stone magazine, and they're like, what people don't understand is like cool and counterculture is a horseshoe where eventually, like David Hasselhoff is so uncool because he's doing Baywatch. He jumps that little chasm and he's right back to cool.
Yes.
Because the counterculture, like, you know, counterculture skater
everything
kids
rotates. Everything
got
rotates.
so cool. They jumped the horse, and now there's like, now there's whole stores like committed to selling the counterculture stuff. So it's like the horseshoe thing is weird. So you're going to come back around and you're going to fall back in love with the Joe Rogan podcast around 30 years old.
I still love the Joe Rogan podcast, but I just feel like an idiot watching it now, dude. I'm like, oh man, like what am I doing?
Don't let other people judge you by the fact that it's popular. It's okay.
It's like, I don't know. And it's just different now too, bro. He used to talk about mental health a lot more. Like mental health used to be a large topic on the Joe Rogan Experience. He used to talk about anxiety. He used to talk about mental health. He used to talk about about like guys and relationships and like how to talk to girls. This was a very common topic on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Right.
As of late, it's all political, bro. It's all COVID, China, fuck
Right.
Biden, Trump,
Well, he's
Republican.
50 now, Bar.
And I'm like, bro, like I get it, dude. I love everything you're saying. Fuck China, fuck Biden. I love Trump. Yes, everything you're saying politically, I agree with.
Right.
But like, dude, like, where are the real issues? Like, you understand how large mental health went up in COVID? And like, yeah, he talks about it. He still does talk about these issues. He still does bring it up. But there used to be, I don't know, it just used to feel much more genuine and much more authentic and much more real when I used to listen to it back in 2012, 2013, 2014. Like, it just felt like it was a different vibe, bro. It was a different tone. It was just a different thing, man. It's just, and everything changes. Nothing lasts forever. You know, so
I've told several people who are like, hey man, like you're fucking 40 something. Like I know you used to box and wrestle. I was like an okay wrestler in high school. I was like an okay wrestler. I was a decent wrestler on like a state champion team, right? So I just got my ass beat by my best bud, Stu Young. He was the coach's son. He's also the strongest human being I've ever met, Division I wrestler. He's now getting into jiu-jitsu. I think he just got his blue belt. When he comes up, you guys will have to roll with him. It's scary, bro. You're like, if this guy can openers me, he's going to break my spine because he's like one of those Nebraska fucking corn-fed.
open the guard, bro.
Yeah, I know.
The can opener is not real, bro.
Yeah,
That's like a fairy tale. That's not a real submission.
When he sits down on your half guard and then just tries to rip your neck off your body, it's scary because you two would beat him, but for an average dude, he's awkwardly strong. So we'll bring him up here and do like a takedown clinic because he was so slow he can't sprawl. So he had to do all this weird like Greco-Roman head control. Like he'll teach you a ton about takedowns and you can teach him how to work on the mat.
The great Andrew Ram told me one time, never let a grown man or never let a man touch your face. Ever, under any circumstance.
I actually stole from Andrew Ram, and these are my favorite things to reference in jiu-jitsu. There are 3 rules for jiu-jitsu. Number 1, win.
Okay, good rule.
Number 2, don't touch my face. And number 3 is don't look at me. So those are his 3 rules for jiu-jitsu. Yes. I have a notebook at home I used to train with Ram quite a bit, and I wrote on the front of the notebook random thoughts.
Ramisms.
Ramisms as they were called.
Explain to people that don't know who we're talking about who Ram is.
So Andrew
Ram used to be
Ram,
a coach at 10th Planet Las Vegas.
Yeah, he used to be a coach at 10th Planet Las Vegas. Very, very interesting guy. I love Andrew Ram to death. I trained a lot with him. And
shout out Andrew Ram.
Yeah, his thought process on jiu-jitsu and life is very unique. And he would give me like these random thoughts, as I called them, and they're things that stick in my brain, and I think about them. They're simple one-liners, and I think about them for years and like ponder them, because some of the stuff he says is like literally like wizard living on the mountain kind of thing. Like he's the guru. Like
because I'm thinking like, don't let them look at you. There's so many things where like if you frame people's face away from you, if you're standing and they can't see you eye to eye, they're fucked. You're winning.
Yes.
I thought about this a lot. So the rules number 2 and 3, the underlying principle as I see it for both of those is spinal control, right?
Spinal.
It's spinal.
It's one of my favorite words.
If you can't look at me, that means I'm controlling your spine, right? And if you can't touch my face, you can't control my spine, the most important end of the lever. Plus, that's where the majority of my off buttons are, right? You choke me out, like knock you out. Like this is where 90% of the off buttons are. We got like liver shots and everything, but like those are the off buttons. So if you can't touch my face and you can't look at me, I'm probably achieving rule number 1, win. That for me, rules 2 and 3, like the underlying principle is all about spinal control, right? And again, there are 2 ways we can control the spine reliably. There's the head and the hips. Head is usually easier to control. It's a lot less strong, but like if we want to make a human significantly weaker, right, point their head and their hips away from you, they can't really do damage to you behind them, especially when you're on the ground. Like when you're standing, there's turning kicks and everything like that. But like if you control their spine and face it away from you, they can't look at you, they can't touch your face, I'm winning.
I love that.
So,
what's your favorite ism?
Favorite random thought?
Ramism.
Or any ism. Like what's like your one principle? Like I was talking to Derek, for example, and this is almost embarrassing to admit, but he's really good, so I don't really care. We were practicing like some defenses and some chokes, and like just really, I was thinking of it conceptually. I'm like, well, if I can escape from everything, then I can feel comfortable like attacking things. So I'm like, fuck, I got in a bad position, I can get out of this. So we were just practicing like some triangle defense, and all of a sudden he locked it in tight, and I like fell asleep on his balls. Yes. And I'm just in a triangle, and I come to, and he's like slapping me in the face. He's like, "You okay, bro?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude. I think I just like gassed out there." He's like, "No, I don't think you gassed out. I think you passed out." I'm just like laying in his balls. It's pretty embarrassing. Yes. And his ism was like, "Hey man, your left hand is the needy boyfriend, and your right hand is the fucking over aggressive like codependent girlfriend. They always got to be together. Like 2 hands in, 2 hands out. Like these 2 hands, you don't ever end up with the boyfriend over here and the girlfriend over here, because then you're fucked." And I'm like, oh, that's such a good ism, because like in jiu-jitsu, like as soon as your arms are separated,
I was gonna say this is a very strange.
And you're like one arm in, one more arm out. He's like, bro, you got to get the girlfriend and the boyfriend together, and you're winning. Whether it's like a gable grip behind their body, around their legs, 2 of them in between their legs. If you get the girlfriend and the boyfriend always being together, you're gonna generally be safe in jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, oh, that's a good ism. So I'll go to you, man. What's an ism that sticks in your mind when you're rolling? Like, oh, I just got to get back to this position or this thought process, and I'm going to be good, even if I think I'm in a bad spot.
He has one that's kind of like Dean Lister's, John Danaher's, like, why would you ignore 50% of the human body? One time he told me, I remember, I forgot exactly what position I was in, but I was using both of my feet and one of my hands. I was grabbing on with my hand, I was grabbing on one of the arms, and I was using both of my legs in some sort of guard type of position. And then one of my hands was just chilling, just hanging out on the mat. And he was like, why would you waste 25% of your body? Like, your arm is not doing anything. That's 25% of your effectiveness being wasted. Right? So you should always have a task. That's what he said too. And this is the one that stuck with me, is you should always have a task for both of your for all of your limbs, for both of your hands and both of your legs, and not only both of your arms and both of your legs, but your head, right? You should always have a task for every placement for every piece of your body, and they should all be working towards you and trying to achieve a good goal. Right? So every single part of your body should be doing something, even if it's doing something small. Like if you're in full mount, just for easiest thing, for full mount, a lot of the times people are doing nothing with their hands. Their hands are floating, right? It's better to put your hands on the person, put your hand on their face, put your hand on their shoulders, put your hand on their chest, put your hands on their cheeks, put your hands down on them. Very commonly, people put their hands down on the mat. If my hands are down on the mat and I'm in full mount, my arms have some weight to them. So if my hands are on the floor and my head is over you, that means there's weight on the mat and not on you. If I would just posture up and place my hands onto you, now my hands aren't doing that much more. It's not like crazy more effective putting them on you opposed to the floor, but it's a little bit more effective.
Yeah, it's a couple pounds of extra weight.
There's a couple more pounds on you, dude. And now when you try and sit up, I can push your face, I can push your shoulders, I can grab your arms, I can start pinning your hands. I can use my hands to start setting things up and start being more effective. So just trying to not have dead body parts, you know what I mean? Not have wasted effectiveness. If you're not using one of your arms, that's like 20% of your body, you know? It's probably like 20-20, and then your head's like 10.
Yeah. You know? I've noticed this, rolling a little bit with you.
How percentage didn't add up, but it's okay.
No, I got it. When I started with my buddy Jeff Martin, the black belt down in LA, who gave me like my first 50 lessons or whatever, I noticed it with him. He's probably built like you, 150 pounds, somewhere in there, 160 pounds, pretty like lanky but strong guy. And it's like, you roll with somebody who's 150 pounds, who's a white belt, it feels like my 6-year-old Gabriel laying on top of you. Blue belt, they feel like 150 pounds. Purple belt, they feel like 170 pounds. By the time you get to the black belt level, somehow that placement of that weight all of a sudden, a 140-pound dude on
Feels
top of
real
you
heavy.
feels like 300 pounds, and you're like, it's the same body type, it's the same everything, but that weight distribution, man, of just like, all right, now they're laying their 10-pound head on you. Now they've got a hand on your chest. Now they're gripping you in a way where like all their weight is in just like 3 little square inches of your nerve center, like on your sternum. It's a whole different, like, I almost feel like, forget the moves, forget the skill or the ability they're teaching. Maybe a black belt is just somebody who can double their weight. like if you can double your weight with pressure, that's a pretty amazing skill.
Yeah.
My goal is to feel like, you know, those, the asphalt, what do they call them? Fuck, I can't remember the name. Big rolly wheel. They flatten out asphalt. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That like steamroller thing.
Yeah. My goal is to feel like that. Like you are just that tube of fucking toothpaste and I'm just squeezing.
Yeah, bro. Mission
all
accomplished.
The pressure. That's the goal. Every time in my head, I picture when I don't do it obviously to small white belts or anything. Like I'll play around with them. And typically I pull guard every single round. But my goal when I get on top is to feel like that. Like that's how I want to feel. I have that picture in my mind. I just want you to feel like you're getting smeared into the mat and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, which is such like, just as a man, it's such a degrading feeling. Like going back to your original thing of, you walk into the gym as a white belt and you think you're really badass. I remember reading something else in some article. I read too much. I read some other article where like, on average, a man's going to be in the 50 percentile, right? But there's like 3 things all men think they're in the 90th percentile of: fighting, fucking, and driving. And it's like every man is just like, I'm a great driver. I'm a beast in bed. Oh, yeah, dude, I have no formal training, but I could beat that guy's ass. Like, this is like 90% of dudes think they're in the 90 percentile, which is actually mathematically impossible. So if you've never taken any type of combat class, boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, and you think you're in the 90 percentile of defending yourself, go take one Jiu-Jitsu class and you'll have like an ugly, eye-opening, like soul-crushing experience. It's just degrading.
You'll realize you're in the bottom 10%.
Yeah, exactly. It's so discouraging.
I'm in the. I was gonna say I don't care about one of those, so I must make my percentages go up to the 2 I do care about. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't care about cars.
He doesn't care about. You drive a 1995 Saturn, I think.
2007.
2007 Saturn.
Put some respect, brother.
I was going to say,
People, I drive up, and then other people my age are like, "Oh, you drive a shitbox."
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. I don't give a fuck what I drive, bro. The fact that you care about your car makes me hate you. Makes me absolutely hate you straight off the back. The fact that you think you're better than me, and that your first words to me upon initially meeting you is, "Oh, you drive a shitbox." Oh, you're a piece of shit,
dude. My first car was a
Saturn. You care about your car, like, oh man, I hate people that care about their cars, bro.
I feel like one day Jordan might be that guy, like living on the side of the road as like a guru, like pay me $5 for advice and then let's roll. Like I just feel like you could be this homeless guru where you're just sitting there.
It's definitely a near possibility for my future, bro. Homeless guru, pay me $5 and let's roll. That's definitely a possibility. You know,
we got a spare
let's
bedroom
hope
here,
not.
Bro. We got a
let's
spare
hope
bedroom
not,
here.
brother.
I was going to say, like, I'm with Jordan. Like, I don't really give a shit about cars. However, I just thought about it, and I'm pretty sure my truck that I drive is older than you. Like,
it's pretty funny.
I have a 95 Ford Ranger. So, yeah, it's older than you. Like, I bought it off an old farmer in Nebraska. It had been sitting in his barn for 16 years.
I love this.
So, when I bought it, when I came back from Korea, it only had 72,000 miles on it, and it's a 26-year-old truck. So, but otherwise, I'm with Jordan. Like, I don't give a fuck what I drive. Like, it gets me to point A and point B. Although, now having owned a truck, I never owned a truck before. I drove trucks. You know, everyone in Nebraska has a truck, but I didn't have one. My parents didn't have one. They had SUVs and everything. Now that I've owned a truck, I can never own a car as my primary vehicle again. Like, when I moved back, I made 90% of my money just by the fact that I owned a truck. And so I can never go back.
You said move back. What did you go to Korea for, by the way? Did you go to Korea for a year and a half for jiu-jitsu?
No, actually, that was a step back for my jiu-jitsu. And upon initial inspection, because I moved to, if anyone's ever watched the show Squid Game, this is where you might know the reference. I moved to Jeju Island off the southern coast of South Korea. My fiance and I decided I was a journeyman in the union I worked at, which meant I could take withdrawals. I could leave the union in good standing. So like I mentioned, anytime I want, I can go back and go work for the union again. But we decided we don't have any fucking kids right now. Like we don't have to stay anywhere. And neither one of us had ever been to Asia. And she has been a professional tutor in the past. For college kids, high school kids, and everything. And she came up to me one day and she's like, do you want to just move to Asia and teach English for like a year? And I was at a point, I was like, yeah, fuck it. Why not? Like, let's go do it. So we took this online class. I think it was like maybe 12 weeks long, and it cost about $1,000. You take the class to learn kind of the principles of teaching and everything, which also helped for jiu-jitsu a lot. So we took this class, had to go do in-person teaching at a English as a second language school here in Vegas. And the woman, I don't think she'll ever watch this or hear this, but Natasha, I fucking love you. She was this old Russian woman, and I grew up around a lot of Eastern Europeans, like Russians, Ukrainians, everything like that. And so I have a soft spot in my heart for their cold hearts. But I love this woman to death because she was teaching English to other people who English would be their second language, and English was her second language.
Amazing.
And she had been doing it professionally for like 26 years. So she was amazing, but every like hour she'd be like, all right, we're going to take a break. And we'd do like 8-hour days with her, and she'd go out and smoke Virginia Slims, and we'd go talk with her. Fucking love that woman. So yeah, we decided just fuck it. Let's move to South Korea and go teach English. And I was a kindergarten English teacher, and my fiance taught high school and middle school age kids. She preferred the older kids. I'm like, these young kids, all their teachers currently are all women. They offered me the job because, like, I was already the art and music teacher for the kindergarten kids, and the kindergarten kids love me because to them, I'm a giant jungle gym. Like, they're like, I can just jump on this guy and, like, climb on his arms and whatever.
They're like crazy giant Americans.
Yeah, exactly. And so they asked me after a couple months in, they're like, hey, the old kindergarten teacher, her contract's up. She's leaving. Like, do you want to move to teaching kindergarten at the school instead of, at the time I had like a mixed schedule, and I was like, I fucking hate these middle school kids. So yes, like I will go teach the kindergarten kids because they're fun. Like,
no, they're not at all.
Well,
like, that's like the seventh circle of hell to me, teaching a bunch of other people's kids. I barely have the patience to teach my own kid.
Being a kids instructor is really hard.
Here's the thing. I don't really like teaching kids jiu-jitsu classes. Well, here's the thing. I would enjoy it. I told actually Derek today. Derek was subbing for Yaz because Yaz is out of town. He's one of the kids instructors at 10th Planet Las Vegas. And I told Derek, children are like velociraptors from Jurassic Park, right? So when you see a substitute teacher in there, the children, they don't even mean to do it, but they have to test the fence. They got to see, what can I get away with that I can't get away with the normal person that's here, right? So they're like the velociraptors in Jurassic Park. If you remember the first movie, they're just always testing the fence. Like, where's the fence weak? So like little kids especially, they're always testing the boundaries. Like, what can I get away with this new person here? That's why everyone remembers, even if you were a good kid in school, when the sub was there, you were a fucking...
It was the best.
You were a shithead. And it wasn't even intentional. It's just little kids...
Human nature, man.
They have to test those boundaries, and they have to figure it out. So if you can kind of establish it from the beginning and you're their regular teacher, you can get into a rhythm and get a good relationship with the kids and everything. Substitute teaching for little kids is hell. Like, it's terrible because, again, they're even the best behaved
You're
kids.
just a glorified babysitter, essentially.
Even the best behaved kids are just testing the fence.
Yeah.
And I think once you understand that, a lot of their behavior is more like, okay, I get why you're doing it. And, but I enjoyed teaching the little kids, like, because I was their homeroom teacher. I taught, my main class, they were, what would that be in like American years? Because Korean birthdays are different than American birthdays. It's like a year off. So in American age, they were probably 6 and 7. And then my little kid class that I was the co-teacher for, these kids were 3 and 4.
Oh, it's brutal. Sounds miserable to me.
Yeah, I enjoyed it overall. Like, there was a lot of stress to it, and sometimes it was frustrating, but anything's better than middle school kids. Middle school kids
They're the worst.
are the fucking worst.
Yeah,
Like,
I think I get down with the middle school kids. I could somehow do some Jedi mind tricks. I could reason with them. I could maybe still intimidate them physically. But
I was going to say the only way I can teach children is because I'm a jiu-jitsu instructor. I'm allowed to strangle them.
Yeah.
I strangle them in front of their parents.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
I also wrist lock them. I do Aikido wrist locks on them. I throw them to the floor by their little baby wrists with one hand. Sometimes they standing tap, and it brings me joy. It just brings me
By
such
the way,
happiness.
like the only move that I feel very proficient at because of my semi-wrestling background is like basically getting on side control and then manipulating people until they give up the wrist, and I wrist lock them, and people get so mad.
Oh, wrist locks are the
They
best.
get so mad when I'm laying on top of them, and they think I'm going for something really intricate, and then I just bend their wrist over. That's like my only high
best.
percentage submission, and people get fucking pissed.
Oh yeah.
I was going to say there's wrist locks. Toe holds are very much that way as well. And then I am a big fan. I'm starting the movement. It's been started, but I'm an advocate of it. Make ankle locks great again. I love ankle locks. Like heel hooks are great, but ankle locks, if you accidentally injure someone in the gym while you're rolling, an ankle lock, even a really well applied one,
I don't have to feel bad.
Unless you have a freak accident where you snap their shin bone, which you have to be way bigger than them generally to do. An ankle lock, if you get a pop and something
It's all good.
fucks up, like max, they're out for 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
If I get a heel hook on you and like you twist the wrong way, I don't even have to be applying it hard, but you just twist the wrong way, I might fuck up your knee for like a year.
Or
Like,
life.
Or life, yeah. So like for me, knowing heel hooks is super important, but like I'd rather get an ankle lock on most people, unless like I'm rolling with someone like Jordan or
I was
someone
gonna
else.
say, put me in an ankle lock, please, Pat.
Yeah.
I will let my shit break, bro.
I-
I don't
I-
give one fuck, bro.
I know.
You think
Yeah,
I care
Jordan-
about my foot, dude?
Jordan's
That's
a
all,
psycho,
like-
bro. Jordan really wants I was taking a private lesson with Jordan, and he's like, giving me the move, right? And then he's like, no, I'm fine. And it was to the bending point where like I was uncomfortable in a training setting. I'm like, no, dude, that doesn't feel good for me. Like, God forbid I like
I'm
fall
like, nah,
the
Scott,
wrong
I'm good.
way. I can't
good,
manipulate my fat ass or something. Like, I'm gonna feel horrible if I injure you. And you're like, bro, you're not gonna injure me. I'm like, which is weird because in jiu-jitsu, like 90% of the moves is you're trying to break somebody's neck. And like that can make them a quadriplegic, but there's like this weird additional layer of awkwardness dealing with people's ankles and knees. I don't know why.
Well,
comes from the Brazilians, brother.
Well,
comes
that-
from
I
the
think
Gracies.
I think that's part of it, and then like, for me, if I fuck up your leg, especially like, I'd feel bad if you work some kind of manual labor job. You're on your feet all the time. If I fuck up your leg, I might be fucking up your livelihood.
Yeah.
Obviously, the neck.
Not me. I'm on a computer. You can do whatever you want.
Well, same with
don't
like.
fuck up my jaw, dude. I talk for a living.
Well, this is why I say anything below the eyes is the neck, but when we're in the training setting, I'm not trying to face crank you. Like, I want a clean choke. Even if I don't get a tap out of the round, I would rather not just crank your fucking jaw and risk breaking your jaw, because that would be terrible. But it's the same with the legs. Like, I don't know what everyone does for a living. I would rather let go of something, especially in a training atmosphere. If we're competing, fuck you. I'll break your shit. Like, I don't care about you. Like, I hope you recover afterwards. But in that setting, the responsibility is on you to not get
tap
broken.
fast. Yeah. So talk about this, Jordan, because like you're really good at articulating this. Don't let anybody touch my face. Keep your hips away as if the person's trying to punch you, even though you can't punch in jiu-jitsu. Like you're probably, I'm gonna give you some credit here. You're probably one of the best instructors, and I've maybe taken a bunch of private lessons with a half dozen people. I've taken a bunch of classes around California, Arizona, Nevada when I train for work. You're the best person, as far as I've experienced, relating it back to like, no, man, this is real combat. Like in the moment when you're going through like your, technical skill practice, think about if this human being was trying to punch me in the face, right? Or snap my neck, what would my response be? And
exactly.
You're really good at explaining body position in relation to assume this guy's trying to stab you in the face with a knife. And it's like, oh yeah, that's a really good thought. I wouldn't probably just like roll my head into his fist.
If he has a knife, then you better hope you know the other martial art, parkour.
Parkour, run real fast, yeah.
All right.
Charge a gun, run from a knife.
That's the other thing. Parkour is a martial art. A lot of people don't realize that. Parkour is the art of flight. The same way jiu-jitsu and karate is the art of fight. Well, what is your response when you're at face with a fight, right? It's fight or flight.
Right.
If you fight, I'll fight you every single day of the week if it's like I don't see no knife or no gun. But the moment you pull that knife and gun out, you're gonna see my parkour that I used to know when I was 14, bro. I'm gonna be out. I'm gonna be gone. Right?
Be flipping over tables and shit, straight out of Jackie Chan.
Dude, I'm gonna be on the buildings, bro. You're not gonna know how I got up there, man. You're not gonna be able to catch me.
Oh my God, this is the best interview ever.
So yeah, like I said, history is my favorite subject, man. And also I started training MMA and jiu-jitsu. I started training jiu-jitsu with regards of being an MMA fighter. I never wanted to get good at jiu-jitsu in the beginning, bro.
Are you still fighting at all? Is that
I
at all
just
on your
now
radar?
started training MMA again with the team this week, bro. My first day back was Tuesday, bro. I sparred with at 9 a.m. a little bit. And well, it's not really sparring. We do like touch sparring. It's not real sparring. But I went to the 9 a.m. MMA practice on Tuesday. I'm going to be there again tomorrow morning. And I'm going to start sparring with the pros again soon. But I want to like work my fit-ins and work moving around offensively, like doing MMA again before I go back into fighting with the savages, you know what I mean? Because in 2019, I was sparring with the pro team over at Extreme Couture, and I was sparring over at the UFC PI. So I'm sparring with dudes like Thomas Almeida, like Gary St. Lion, who's in 1FC. Like I'm sparring with like killers, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it doesn't sound fun.
These dudes aren't taking it easy on me either, bro. They're in camp. Yeah. They're trying to prepare for their fight. You think they give a fuck about me, Mo? Like, no, they're trying to get better themselves, you know? Right. So I know what the level of training is like, and so it's a different caliber of jiu-jitsu, so I'm just trying to prepare my body and my reaction time before I go and get some hard sparring rounds. But yeah, I want to have a fight before the year is over, hopefully in December, knock on wood. Hopefully I can get one in December. But even if I don't get one in December, it's all good. Everything will come in time. I'm just trying to get as many fights as possible. But when I do fight again, I'm going to make sure that I'm ready. Because when I fought in 2019, if you watch any of my fights from 2019, it's like it's like I'm watching a stranger fight, dude. I'm like, who is that guy? Like, that's not how I fight. That's not how I want to fight. That's not how I spar. It's not me, man. But there was a bunch of, not to go back into my woe is me type thing, but in 2019, it was a real tough year for me mentally. I was all lost, like probably the most lost I had felt since before I started training MMA. Like when I was like waking up, throwing up and having anxiety and shit. I was like feeling almost like that in 2019, just real lost for different reasons. And I was like, I felt like I was almost having like a midlife crisis because I was approaching 25, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not a professional fighter yet. I'm getting old. I'm still poor. Like if I don't fight MMA now, I'm not going to be able to fight MMA. I have to fight MMA, whether I'm ready or not, or whether I have to fight MMA. I was like fighting out of like in the worst possible mental headspace. And so I just looked really bad, honestly, in my first couple fights. And so when I do come back in MMA, I want to be completely confident that I'm mentally ready and I'm physically ready, and that when I come, I'm just going to absolutely hurt somebody within a matter of seconds. Like I'm just going to come in there and really fuck somebody up. Like I feel bad for the first guy they give me for the amateur fight again.
This is an interesting dilemma, right? Because it's like theoretically all the money's in boxing. And then UFC
Exactly.
UFC comes along and they're like, oh, okay, we have a proof of concept where you can make money in MMA. And then like Gordon Ryan comes along and they're like, oh, well, now we have proof of concept that you can make real money in no-gi jiu-jitsu.
If you're Gordon Ryan, bro, like the no-gi scene is coming. The no-gi scene is coming. Give the no-gi scene, say that again on this podcast in 10 years, then you're going to be able to be like, okay, you can actually make a living. But how many people are Gordon Ryan?
Yeah,
how many people was one exactly?
Which is so weird, dude, because like I know I'm kind of like a fanboy of jiu-jitsu right now, and maybe I'm getting into it at the exact perfect time, because for one person to be so much more dominant than the entire field, it doesn't even make rational sense, right? And for people that don't know who Gordon Ryan is, look him up. He's kind of this really brash, cocky, like Allen Iverson type character in the jiu-jitsu world, but he's Allen Iverson who's better than Kobe, Jordan, like LeBron.
He's
like,
not
it just
like
doesn't make any fucking sense.
He's not like a Michael Jordan type comparison, because I mean, I'm not even a sports fan, but I know that Michael Jordan is compared to Kobe, is compared to LeBron, is like the people make comparisons, and like whether people agree with that or not, there is people that do agree with it.
Right.
There is no comparison to Gordon Ryan.
Yeah.
There's never been anybody that's done what Gordon's done. There's never been a Gordon. There is no comparison to this guy. The level of domination that this guy is doing to the sport has never been done in another sport before.
No, for sure. Because
at least not that I know of, bro. Exactly. Serena Williams,
Tiger Woods,
not like Gordon Ryan.
They
bro.
still lost sometimes.
That's not like bro. It's
Like,
not. It's not what Gordon's doing, man. What Gordon's doing is otherworldly, dude. It doesn't make any sense.
Chris, you're gonna have to look this up. I think Tiger Woods has won 13 or 14 PGA tours. The equivalency for what Gordon Ryan has done in the jiu-jitsu world is if Tiger Woods went out and won every single PGA tour, like all 12 of them a year for
82.
He's won 82. Oh my God, I didn't know he's won 82 PGA events. Jesus, man, what a beast!
And he's tied with somebody named Sam Snead for the most wins.
Look up how many
Who the fuck is
PGA
that
tours
guy?
there are a year, because Gordon is like, he's just doing something that's like, it's on that Tiger Woods, Serena level. But to your point, I could sit here all day long and argue with somebody about why Kobe is better than Jordan, because Jordan played in the one-on-one era.
Exactly.
And Kobe played in the fucking zone defense era where like 2, 3, 4 people were guarding him every day. So like we could have an honest debate.
There's 48 per year.
There's 48 per year. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. So we could have an honest debate about why Kobe's better than Jordan or LeBron's better than Kobe, but nobody can argue with this Gordon Ryan thing. It just doesn't make sense.
Even the people who hate him, they admit that he's the best,
yeah.
and a lot of people hate him.
I just want to like point out, not to continue the fanboying for Gordon Ryan, although I'm a huge fan. I study his shit a lot because obviously he's doing something really well. Tiger Woods won 82 events.
Yeah.
Right? And
there's
there's 48 a
year.
year. So even if he had won 2 years consecutively and won, what would that be? 96?
Yeah.
If he had won 2 years consecutively, Gordon Ryan hasn't lost a match in, I think it's been like 4 years.
It's been longer than that, bro.
Like his last technical loss was to Vinny Magalhaes, and it was a decision, I believe, for, I don't remember the promotion, but he lost. It was either decision or points or something like that. He lost to Vinny Magalhaes, but that was like at least 4 years ago, and he hasn't lost since.
You know, his life is jiu-jitsu. When you, on Wikipedia, I'll read the entire personal life section. Ryan is also the older brother of Nicky Ryan, another successful submission grappler.
Yeah, that's his whole personal life.
That's personal life.
And by the way, his girlfriend, a successful submission grappler. So it's like everything in his life. It's just so weird how successful he's been. But the genesis of the question was, you know, you have this dilemma. Andy Varela, our coach and friend, has this dilemma. It's like, well, do you just become the best possible, amazing jiu-jitsu practitioner you can in no-gi, or do for your own personal wealth and well-being, do you have to go the MMA route and be like, all right, man, I got to get back to hitting the pads, and I got to do some Muay Thai classes, and I gotta train with these UFC fighters? Like, is that the only route in this current age for most jiu-jitsu practitioners to make a living?
What do you consider a living?
I think there's that Maslow hierarchies of needs. They always do this like survey where anything
How much
over
money are you wanting a year? Yeah.
Yeah, like anything over 78,000, or there's some number that gets thrown out in the 60, 70,000 range. It's like, all right, at $60,000 a year, you can like own a house, you can have a car, you can pay your rent.
If you're making $40,000 a year doing jiu-jitsu, you're rich.
Oh, that's so sad.
All right. Well, I'll speak a little bit on this point because there's a little bit of a difference. And Gordon Ryan, what he does is his whole job is as a competitor. He's talked about this before, and this stems from we spoke earlier about the difference between people who are good at jiu-jitsu and people that are good at teaching jiu-jitsu because they're different skill sets. And if you look in the past, if you wanted to make a living off of jiu-jitsu, no matter how good of a competitor you were,
you had to open up a school.
You had to open up a school. You had to teach. And that's still pretty much true.
Right.
Gordon's kind of the first example of someone whose entire livelihood is made off of being a competitor. Yes, he has his instructionals and he has his investments and everything else.
But those only happen because he's successful as a competitor.
Exactly. Those only happen because of that, where in the past what we saw, if you were a successful competitor, you had to go sell seminars and you had to travel to go teach those seminars and you had to open a school and you had to teach, and that took away from your own training.
And that still is the norm for the most part, even in the current day.
Exactly.
But things are changing.
Yeah. No-gi.
Things are starting to change.
Jiu-jitsu, specifically no-gi jiu-jitsu, because there's, I think without question, there's more money to be made in no-gi jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, because gi jiu-jitsu, I enjoy practicing it. It's the most boring shit to watch.
Oh,
somebody gets a collar
terrible.
grip and you sit there for 6 minutes and then
Jiu-jitsu's
they're like,
boring
you
to
won.
watch,
You
bro.
won
Did
in
you
a.
watch ADCC?
I loved ADCC.
I actually enjoyed
loved
it. I actually enjoyed it
Man,
a
bro,
lot.
I was so disappointed with the ADCC. I was
fucking
like, bro,
loved it.
this is especially the absolute. Bro, did you watch the absolute of the ADCC?
It was a little slow.
Bro, oh my God. That was god awful, bro. That was some
Jordan's
real bad
life mission.
calls.
Jordan's
some
life
real
mission
boring
for the next,
matches.
for the next 2 years is going to
Jiu-jitsu
just.
sucks as a spectator sport, bro. That shit'll never be popular.
I agree, as it has a similar problem that wrestling has,
Yeah.
right? Wrestling, if you don't know shit about wrestling, doesn't make any sense to watch. Anybody can watch football, basketball. My example is...
I feel like that's because of the culture.
Well, maybe.
That's definitely because of the culture, because I don't understand sports with balls. It like makes me start stuttering, bro. That shit don't make no sense to me,
Here's the thing,
man.
though.
You're running a ball around a field. You're grown men. Like, when there's... All right, yeah.
Jordan
that
is
makes
so
no
incensed
sense.
right now.
I don't
team sports,
understand
bro.
the
I hate
rule.
'em.
I don't understand the rules of rugby, but I can sit down and watch rugby just as an entertainment value. I don't have to understand exactly why they blow the whistle, or hockey's another example. I don't know dick about hockey, but I will sit down and watch a game, especially if I'm hanging out with friends, and I can get the general idea well enough. But especially if you watch jiu-jitsu, no gi or gi. Gi's even worse for this, where if you don't know the intricacies of what they're doing, and to my other point about wrestling, if you don't know all the little setups and that little grip change and how it changes thing, it is fucking horrendous to watch.
Right.
I am fascinated watching wrestling. I'm fascinated watching no-gi jiu-jitsu. Gi jiu-jitsu is less exciting for me. I still watch it because I think it's interesting watching specifically, like, I mostly watch highlights of gi jiu-jitsu. Like, watching a full match for me
is painful.
It's terrible. And to your point, like, I'll do gi jiu-jitsu because I started in the gi, and I have certain friends. When I lived in Korea, every class I took was in the gi. So I don't mind it, but I have a preference for no gi. Whereas, like, same thing with wrestling. Like, you have to know what's going on to be a spectator.
Right.
Like, if you take your friend that's never wrestled before and try and show him a Jordan Burroughs match, like, Jordan Burroughs is one of the greatest representatives for American wrestling of all time. But you watch one of those matches, and most of it is boring. The action is condensed to a few seconds.
Yeah, and by the way, most novice people trying to watch a wrestling match, they don't even know who's winning.
Yep.
Because at like the elite level, nobody gets pinned. So
I still I still don't know who's winning in wrestling matches, bro.
Yeah,
I
especially
still
with the
don't
new
know
rule
who's
set.
winning half the time in jiu-jitsu matches, bro. That's what I was just gonna say. Is like, even though yeah, there is something to be being educated in order to enjoy what's going on.
Right.
But like I just said, bro, I did not enjoy watching Bro, the first day of ADCC, the announcer made me leave for one. The first day of ADCC, I went there live. I paid $300 for these fucking tickets.
Was this
dude.
the lady with the like?
The Pride lady.
Bro, if it was
she
a
was
lady,
not-
she was tripping, bro. She's on crack, dude. She's like,
I
I was like, what the hell
She
is going
smokes like
on?
9 packs a day. It was so
Bro,
weird.
I
love it.
left, dude. I left the first day of ADCC.
I thought specifically for her, having her announce all the competitors in a row and the country they're
It was
from,
horrible.
that was too
real
much.
bad.
However, for me, I loved Pride back in the day. Like when I watch old fights, Pride is my favorite organization of all time. I love their rule set, and she's, the old announcer from them. Everyone knows her.
There's a nostalgia for you there.
For sure. Everyone knows her as the Pride lady.
Right.
And when she was announcing like the super fight, Gordon and Andre walking out, that's perfect for her. Just one or two guys. But when she had to rattle off, like, how many competitors do we
it was
have?
really
Like
bad.
100 plus.
It was
When she had to
very
rattle
bad.
all those off,
It's too much.
That was too much.
Yeah, Bruce Buffer does not do the whole fight. He comes in for his, let's get ready to rumble.
Yeah.
And that's it. And he's not there announcing the undercard. He's the hype man for the main event.
For announcing all those fighters out, like that first day, and I saw a lot of people complaining about this, they should have gotten the person in the movie credits that's generic white guy number one. It's just
Yeah.
like, and now representing the USA,
Totally.
Yeah.
Andy Varela, or anything like that. They should have gotten that for the first day.
Yes.
But then to hype out individual matches, she would have been perfect for that.
Yeah.
Because her voice is good for that short time span. And individuals where, like, you already know their fucking name. Like, you don't actually need to hear the name, but, like, the nostalgia factor from her announcing for Pride and everything would have been enough for that. Now, ADCC, Seth Daniels and Mo Jasm made their decision to go with her. Like, they did an amazing job with ADCC putting it on and everything.
did.
And amazing show. And fun thing, Seth Daniels, he runs Fight to Win. I competed in one of his competitions back before he was doing the professional events and got to meet him. This was probably 11 years ago when he was still doing like local tournaments all around the USA. And the tournament I competed in, Seth Daniels, if you ever hear this, I remember meeting you, was the Iowa Grappling Championships. And it was in Council Bluffs, Iowa, which Council Bluffs, we call it Council-tucky, similar to Hendertucky.
Beautiful.
So it was
Great
in
place.
Council Bluffs, Iowa, and this was probably about 11 years ago. And I remember talking to him back then and everything. And even that tournament back then, I remember how well he ran it and everything. I was like, man, I wish every jiu-jitsu tournament was run by this guy because he does an excellent job. And then Mo obviously does an amazing job. I'm going to disagree. I fucking loved ADCC, all the matchups and everything.
I liked the final matches. The finals were good. I liked the first round matches and I liked the final matches, but the in between, the mids between the first round of matches and the finals were kind of unimpressive to me, and the entire Absolute was unimpressive to me.
Jordan was just mad he wasn't there.
I was there the second day.
No, in it. I mean,
Oh yeah.
There
Well,
might-
I wasn't mad. I was mad I didn't do better at the trials. I should have
Yeah.
done better at the trials.
go for it. Yeah, but Jordan's made it clear like his path is continuing to teach, better personal responsibility, focusing on MMA again. He wants to kill somebody in a fight so he can probably get on tough. I think that's clearly your path, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your
yeah.
path?
For jiu-jitsu?
Just for life, man.
Man.
Besides knocking out 12 kids, which I pity your poor girlfriend,
Uh,
fiance.
So for me, the path that I see in my mind is I want to open a jiu-jitsu school down the line. Like, I love teaching jiu-jitsu. It's what I enjoy doing. Like I mentioned earlier, I have cultivated skill sets. I could go work in numerous industries and make a living doing a lot of other things. like I said, I could go walk back into my union job tomorrow, make more money than I do doing jiu-jitsu, and work less hours. But I don't love doing it. Like, it's just a job. Whereas for me with jiu-jitsu, if I can open a school and have half the impact for people that train with me that jiu-jitsu's had on my life, on their life, even if it's like one person, man, like that would be worth it to me. Like, that's what I want to do. Cause I honestly, like, everything in my life, like, I met my fiance because of jiu-jitsu, and actually indirectly because of Casey. That's a fun story as well. But I just want
Can you do like 10th Planet Cabo? Because there's no good jiu-jitsu in Cabo when I go down there to visit.
In a heartbeat. Like, I've talked to some, when I was living on Jeju Island, I had some friends that offered me, they're like, oh, we'll sponsor your visa, we'll open the school, you just be the instructor. And I was like, I don't want to fucking learn Korean, and I don't want to live on this island that long. Like, a year and a half was the perfect amount of time for me to live on that island. But after that, I was like, I'm ready to get the fuck out of Korea. It didn't help. It was during COVID. We had moved to Jeju so we could travel around Asia cheap. Like, flights to Thailand round trip, you could get them for like $20. That's why we had moved there, to see all of Asia. And then COVID shut all that shit down.
The worst.
It's the worst. So, fuck, I'd move to Cabo. I'll live pretty much anywhere, man. Like, I fucking grew up right near my house were just cornfields, and now that cornfield's replaced by a Walmart, and I fucking hate that because I preferred it when it was the cornfields. You know, and we were close enough to a big city. I could go in, see concerts, go to good restaurants, whatever. I don't want to move back to the cornfields so much, but I don't love big cities. Vegas kind of fits that mold for me. Vegas is not a place I'm going to live long term. I let everybody know this. It's good for now. I love Vegas for living in it for now, but it's not where I want to live the rest of my life. But Cabo? Hell yeah. I'm down. Let's go. Scott,
10th Planet Cabo.
fucking book the flight tomorrow. Let's go.
Let's do it. Cabo.
Mexico?
10th Planet Cabo.
See, Spanish is a language I would actually invest time in learning. When I lived in Korea and people are like, oh, are you going to learn Korean? I'm like, no.
Probably wouldn't even need to in Cabo.
Yeah, Cabo's like 90% Americans.
Boom.
Like, you could basically just cater to all the Americans who do jiu-jitsu who like
Done.
have them pay in advance, so when they're too hungover and they don't show up for a class, you still get their money. But yeah, you could probably just get a bunch of expats training there.
But to your earlier question, like, for me, I want to run my own jiu-jitsu gym in the future, raise some kids, and just fucking have my life be about jiu-jitsu as it's been now. Like, that's the coolest thing to me. Like I said, all the cool things I have in my life, most of what I've gotten to do, I met my fiance because of jiu-jitsu, and it's given me so much, even though I'm not a competitor, like high level or anything like that. Just all the benefits it's giving me mentally, physically, all the relationships I have in my life, like what it's given me. If I can give that to other people, that's what I want to give. That's the gift I want to give to the world, rather than go work a different job. Like I said, I mentioned I used to work for Yahoo. Like, I work for this trade union. Like, I've done a lot of different jobs, and not to toot my own horn, but toot, I'm pretty fucking good at everything I do. So,
And this is what you want to do.
And this is what I want to do. Like, this is what I want to do. Again, I could go do other jobs and make more money and work less, but I don't want to do that.
I don't blame you. Jordan, I always like to end with these two questions, man. One thing that you're most looking forward to in the next 6 months, and I think I got a pretty good idea what that is, but what are you like, what's in focus for you that you're most looking forward to in the next 6 months? And then what's your favorite movie? I feel like I learn a lot about people with their favorite movie.
What am I looking forward to in the next 6 months? Definitely, hopefully, a next MMA fight. You know, hopefully, definitely, I'll have another MMA fight within the next 6 months. That's probably one of the bigger things that I'm looking forward to. But without having an actual locked-in date and like anything concretely planned out, I have Battle Grappling in Bellingham, Washington, October 15th. going out there and I'm gonna fuck some dude up, some Drysdale black belt. I've rolled with him before. Fucking asshole, does the scorpion rib crush. Nice guy. Fucking asshole on the mat. That guy's Zach.
I know that guy.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
kill that guy, bro. I'm gonna
Good.
fuck that guy up. Guy idiot. He hurt Casey with the scorpion rib crush one day. I'm gonna really fuck that guy up. And they're gonna pay me a little bit of money. Hopefully, book me for a seminar out in Bellingham. And over at Ronin Jiu-Jitsu with Rafael Domingos, supposedly, it was supposed to be October 1st, but Rafi's a Brazilian stoner, so who knows when this thing's going to formulate. But there's a tournament going on, 16-man black belt division for $5,000 that he said that he's going to invite me to. So whenever that thing actually comes about, I'm really excited about that because I'm feeling good. I could use some money. And my favorite movie... that's a hard one, man. But it's gotta be like a tie. No, actually, no. What am I talking about? I know what my favorite movie is. I just remembered. I don't know why I forgot for a second. Django. Django's
Really?
my favorite movie for sure.
Django Unchained.
Django Unchained, bro. It's
Great
got
one.
comedy. It's got a great story. It's got great action. It's got drama. It's got great actors. It's the best. It has everything. It's a great action movie, great drama, great comedy. Right, it has everything. It has some of the funniest parts I've ever seen in a movie, and they're not even like intentionally funny. I don't think it's just how Quentin Tarantino edits and directs things. Like when he walks up into the bar and then it zooms up on the guy's face real close, and he's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! Like, you can't come in here. Get that out of here!" Like,
Yeah.
Oh my, bro, I almost tear up every single time I see that in a movie. It's just an excellent movie, man.
Yeah.
Second
Quentin
closest,
Tarantino-
Tropic Thunder. Tropic Thunder is a second
Tropic Thunder's
close.
So I don't even know you can make that movie today.
Oh, dude, you can't.
Definitely
There's
not.
People
so
are
many,
pussies.
so many
Ariel's
inappropriate
black,
lines.
bro.
I
You
know.
can make white people black, but people would lose their mind.
Lose
bro.
their mind over
if you
Robert
did it
Downey
that
Jr.
way.
playing
If
a
you
black
did that
guy.
again, bro, you can make like a white animation character into an actual black person, but you can't cast a white person as a black person.
Dude,
people
that
would
movie-
freak out, bro.
The fucking whole booty sweat line
Oh, it's
when
the
he's like
best.
trying to hide that he's gay. And he's like, no, man, I like the pussy and I like the titties, but man, those sweaty buttholes. It's like it's
Two
the whole
controversial
scene,
movies are my favorite movies.
Yeah.
Django and Tropic Thunder. Two
Not-
very controversial movies.
Not shocking.
Those
Not
are my
shocking.
two favorite.
What about you, Patrick? What's in focus the next 6 months, man? What are you looking forward to? And then favorite movie?
Man, the next 6 months, what am I most excited about, or what's in focus? For me, it's just dialing in my craft more for teaching jiu-jitsu. I'm constantly trying to get better at that. So that's what I'm most excited about. I would say, my wedding, but like we don't even know if it's going to be in the next 6 months or in a year or whatever. I was just happy to finally give her the ring. I'd been holding on to that thing for fucking 9 months.
Damn, dude.
Trying to find the right time and the right place and everything.
These bugs are like all over Jordan.
They haven't touched me once.
Toughest. It's because we're
Keep flying
smoking.
right into my face.
Yeah,
man.
toughest guy in the room, and he's fucking terrified of a little grasshopper.
Well, literally flying into my cheeks.
So, yeah, that's what excites me over the next 6 months. Like, I don't have any one singular event I'm thinking of. Like, oh, that's the thing I'm looking forward to. For me, it's just I enjoy every day. Like, I fucking love what I do. So I'm just happy every day. Might get to do a couple cool trips here and there that will be awesome.
Cabo.
I will get on a flight today, like to go to Cabo. Like me and Jen, my fiance, we need no convincing. You're like, you want to go international? Like my bag's packed. Like I can leave. I'm always down. I love traveling.
I'll teach your classes.
I never.
Dude, do you know how cheap you can live in Mexico?
Oh fuck, dude.
Like
Pretty cheap.
dirt fucking cheap. So anyway, I
So
digress.
that $40,000 that jiu-jitsu will learn you, that's a upper middle class living down there.
Boom,
Yeah.
done.
At
That's
40 grand already, I consider myself upper middle class.
I'm-
Fuck.
Fuck yeah.
I'm
in
gonna
Kentucky.
I don't even make that right now, bro. Fuck, I wish
I'm
I made
in
that. God
Kentucky.
damn it.
I'm starting my OnlyFans so I can live in Cabo until the jiu-jitsu
I have
takes off.
Instagram subscriptions. Subscribe to Jordan Wears No Gi, $9.99 a month for your jiu-jitsu techniques. I have the
I know,
buggy
I
choke
love it.
101. right?
By the way,
Shameless plug.
I think you're ahead of the curve because anybody who has tutorials, great. You sell a 59 tutorial and that's it. It's like playing a tennis match where somebody hits you the ball and you catch it. But fucking subscription, that's where the money's at. So if you can just keep putting up good content and get subscribers, like forget the $59.99 tutorial that anybody sells. If you can get recurring revenue with $9 a month for subscribers, that's where the dollars are at, bro.
I was going to say, I'm a fucking dinosaur. I'm working on writing like an ebook essentially right now.
Yes.
I'm a dinosaur. I don't film anything. I get told by all my photographer friends that I take dog shit photos. And
I can confirm.
Yeah, I do not take good photos. Someone thought that getting me an iPhone would fix that. It did not, because I used to be Team Android forever. And then favorite movie. This is always a difficult one for me. So I'm going to be like Jordan, and I'll probably give 2, most likely. Probably my favorite movie, if you're going to ask me on the spot, gun to my head right now, it's a movie called Fearless with Jet Li. I don't know if you ever saw it.
Dude, that's OG movie.
You know that one?
I was like,
movie.
there's no way he's talking about with Jet Li. I was like, it's
So good.
I love
beautiful.
I absolutely love that movie, and I'm one of those people, like, if I watch films in a different language, I can't watch it dubbed over. I have to watch it in the original language or else it fucks with my brain too much, and I'll read subtitles. I don't mind. I wasn't allowed to watch much TV as a kid anyway, so I read a lot. My grandfather was a librarian, so I don't mind reading. So probably Fearless, I would say, is my favorite movie of all time. And secondary favorite, I would have to say Anchorman when it first came out.
Beautiful.
Love that movie.
Fuck, it's so
Hilarious.
fucking funny. It's so funny, and it's still funny. Like, I watched it fairly recently.
They don't make movies like that no more, bro.
And, like, there's some of those movies you watch that they, like, were really funny when you remember them, but then you rewatch them, and it's like,
Even funnier.
It's not that great.
Still
Like,
funny.
Anchorman's still funny. Like, an example of that, I remembered vividly loving the Austin Powers movies when I was younger. I tried to rewatch one recently, and I was like,
Painful.
I was like, I fortunately, I only watched one of them, so I still have fond memories of the other ones. I can be like, all right, I used to watch these with my little brother, and they were funny, and we had a good time, and I haven't tarnished the memory of those. But, like, Anchorman still fucking holds up. Anchorman is still excellent. And then, so I'm going to steal from Jordan. I'm doing 2 movies. Fuck your question. I'm doing 2 movies, not one. Fearless and Anchorman are probably my 2. So
I thought The Great Outdoors and a bunch of these John Candy, Dan Aykroyd movies were hilarious when I was a kid. And same thing. I tried to watch them as an adult, and they just don't hold up. Like, the 80s kind of slapstick does not hold up. But conversely, just the other day, I saw, I don't know, something recommended, Hulu, Netflix, whatever, recommended Tommy Boy, and I watched it.
Oh, fuck, it's
fucking
so
laughed my ass off, bro.
It's so
that
funny.
movie just
Tommy Boy?
Tommy Boy with Chris Farley.
I've never seen it.
Oh my God.
It's
Dude,
I'm
it's
not a
fucking
big Chris
funny.
Farley fan. From
I
what
know,
I've seen,
but
though.
this is good stuff, man. Like, it's pretty hilarious. Like, the physical comedy plus, like, the one-liners, and him and David Spade are just like such yin and yang. It's like a buddy cop comedy, but, you know, they're like salesmen, and it's pretty hilarious. So worth a watch.
What are your thoughts on Napoleon Dynamite? Hit or miss?
I'm agnostic about it. Like, I've seen it, I thought it was funny, but I'm not like a super fan
I'll
like some
never
people.
That's probably my third favorite. That's
Third
one of the
favorite,
best-
really.
I'll never go rewatch that movie. I think I watched it twice.
One of the best movies ever created.
The first time it was funny, and the second time I was like, I know everything already.
It's
Like,
art.
It's art.
It's
yeah.
art. It's art. It is. It's one of the best. It's literally one of the best movies made.
Maybe
of all
I'll have to
time.
give it a try again, but overall, that was one of the movies I felt the same way. I was like, I don't
That
want
movie's
to
timeless.
tarnish the memory I have of enjoying my first time watching it
Yeah.
by rewatching it and ruining it for me.
What's the most
So-
disturbing movie you ever watched?
Oh, I got one.
Oh.
Like, so when I was in, I will preface this with, I don't really like scary movies.
Yeah, me
'cause
neither.
In my mind, life is terrifying enough.
Fuck yeah.
And
I don't need to be scared by
in my relaxing time, I don't need to watch things that make me more scared. However, my fiance, she likes scary movies, and we were hanging out with some good friends of ours. He was actually the owner of one of the jiu-jitsu schools I taught at in Korea, and his wife, she's Australian. They're really great friends of ours. We went over to watch a scary movie with them, and I think it's on Netflix now or Amazon Prime, one of the two, because we were scrolling through and we saw it the other day, and we're like, holy shit, they have this. It's called like Gangjim Asylum or something like that.
Aren't you on that island?
No, because where the movie takes place is on mainland Korea.
Already sounds horrible, Asylum.
It fucking terrifying, because this movie is kind of like, did you watch Blair Witch Project?
Yeah.
Same, the found footage type stuff.
Yeah.
That shit fucks with me. The found footage,
yeah.
even though I know it's fake, I'm like, fuck, that looks real enough.
I can't do it. Well, on that note, I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys
Oh
at
my
Jiu-Jitsu.
God.
I'll
Holy
see you
shit.
guys
Jump
at
scares.
Jump scares. I'll see you guys at Jiu-Jitsu at 6 a.m.
Fuck yeah, let's do it.
Let's do
All
it.
right. Thanks for being on, man.
Hey.